My eyebrows go up. The red light is on. We're live with our Ovadia Heart Health live stream today. And I'm deeply honored to have my colleague, former colleague, friend, Dr. Jenny Simon here with us today. And we've got so many great things to share with you. However, before we get started, I must do one housekeeping thing, and that is to remind all of our listeners and those who are watching and listening that this live stream, along with all of our Monday live streams, is not intended for personal medical advice. If you're interested in working with the Ovadia Heart Health team and Dr. Philip Ovadia, please reach out to us at team@ifixhearts.com, and we will give you the information where to reach out if you're wanting to know and work more with Dr. Jenny Simon. Jenny, hi.
Hi, it's so good to see you.
Thank you so much for being our guest here today. And I've been a longtime fan of your work, and I just thought that you would be a perfect person to help share some of the great information about your experience with us today. So before we get started, I know a little bit about what you've done. However, there might be some of our listeners who also do, but there might be some who do not. Can you give us the Jenny Simon sort of quick background about what you've been doing and your experience?
Yes, absolutely. So I have been a therapist for 25 years in practice, and I specialize in the long-term effects of childhood trauma. I'm licensed in the state of Arizona. I've also been in higher ed for about 25 years. I think my first job was in 2000 at the university. So I've steadily been employed in higher ed, and then I am a public speaker. I met you at Canyon Ranch, so that's a very fun part of my job that I do. And then I've published 2 books, so and both of them are on around mental health. So that is my quick abbreviated who I am.
And for those who want to know the longer version, we will put up here where you can reach out to Jenny Simon at rethinkingtherapy.com. So my first question is going to be about your first book.
Okay.
And I love the title, by the way. And I think there it is. Do I need a therapist? So what a great launching pad for today's conversation, because what I love about what you do, you're always about the practical. So how do I know if I need a therapist, Jenny?
It's such a great question. And I have to give you a little backstory about this book and why it was written. So in my 25 years of doing therapy, this is the number one question that I get asked all the time. People come up to me and they're like, hey, I know, do you have a few minutes? Do I need a therapist? And so because I was asked it so often, I decided it was time to write it. And so it's a how-to guide. And my whole goal is always to pull back the red curtain and show the wizard behind the screen. And I wanted to really demystify therapy. I think a lot of times we just go through the phone book or whoever our insurance approves, and we just pick like, oh, my friend said she was nice. And then we just pick the therapist. And so the answer at the end of this book was, I don't know if you need a therapist, but if you need a therapist, you need the right one. So this book was kind of a consumer guide to help people understand the letters behind everybody's names. Like, what does a credential mean? What's a diagnosis mean? Like, what am I going to do in a counseling session? If I send my kid to child therapy, what am I looking for that's different? And like I write in there, like, don't go to couples counseling unless you're going to see a couples counselor, because you'll probably end a divorce. So it's like it's really like a consumer guide about how to navigate the system, because it's a lot of things happen behind closed doors, and it feels like knowledge is siloed. And I really dislike that. I want people to feel empowered. And as a consumer, if you're buying something like mental health, I want you to know what you're getting into and what to ask for, so that you're not just at the mercy of the system or the managed care system. So
Brilliant. Right. And I know in the book also, so you're guiding people to help them sort of navigate our system. And speaking of our system, historically, there's been some taboo around seeking mental help and various things. Does that still exist, or how do you bridge that gap between what maybe, might be some stigmas around getting help?
I actually think that, the barriers have been broken down, especially in kind of an up and coming generation. I think with the social media, like there is TikTok therapy, like let's face it, Chat GPT is everybody's private therapist. So I think that there is a breakdown in terms of like the stigma, especially for younger audiences. However, I will say still within folks that are maybe 50 and older, there still feels this feeling of kind of like guilt or shame, or I should be able to talk my way out of this, or I should know better, or I should be in a different place than I am. And so there still is a little bit in there that still is lingering about, I don't know, like, is this a for couples counseling, or do we just get over it, or what do we do? And so I think there is still a little bit of stigma, especially for those of us who are a little bit older, because we grew up with kind of like, don't talk about it, and like family secrets are secrets for a reason. And, so I still think there's a little bit, but I would say in the younger group, there doesn't seem to be any barrier. They're like, yeah, I'll go see a counselor. They seem pretty open and, ready. So that feels wonderful that tide has changed a bit.
That's good to hear. And I'm sure within your 25 years of experience, you work with a variety of ages across the age spectrum. And just on the book theme, you've also written a book recently for children. Is that correct?
I have. I have a new little one that came out. It's called Returning to Orbit. And it's about a little guy named Leo who's about 11 years old, and he is struggling with childhood stress. And it feels like in this book, there is an opening that is a note to parents. And also at the end of the book, there is a note to parents about child therapy, what child therapy is. And Leo goes through sort of like his own personal eclipse is what he calls it, where he blocks out his shine, and he gets overwhelmed with his emotions, and kind of how he refines himself. And he does go to see a counselor. So if you're thinking about putting your kid in counseling and you don't really know how to broach it, I think Leo is a very good ambassador. And he does lose his biscuits, and there are words in here like turds. So just keep in mind, like, this is for an 11-year-old. But it is about kind of normalizing stress. There are some tools that Leo learns, and he teaches them as he's going through his counseling. He has some new tools. And then there is some information for parents about how to kind of think about childhood stress, and tools for them too, tools for parents to be like, I have stress. So it seemed very timely this year to put that book out.
Yeah. And stories, whether it's a children's story or an adult story, we can all learn from all of those, correct?
Yeah. And to be honest, I actually wrote this for adults because I think a lot of grownups come into my office and say, my childhood was a little dysfunctional and I am broken. Like, I hear that over and over again, like, it broke me, or I'm broken. And so I actually wrote this for them to be like, you're not broken. Like, you didn't break. And so that was sort of the impetus for the book, was my adult clients who kept saying over and over again, like, look at my picture of when I was 5, like, I lost that smile somewhere along the road. And so I actually wrote this for adults, but it is for 11-year-old. I mean, it is written in that voice of an 11-year-old. So it does, it is a children's book.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So, a woman of many talents, higher education, author, clinician. I do want to say, if anyone listening from whatever platform you are, if you have a question for Jenny, please put it in the comments of those. So, we touched on stress, right? Your book, and talked about Leo and stress. We're a heart health company. You're a mental therapist. Let's sort of, just throw back the cover, as you say, and talk about this connection between the stress and the heart. And I'd love to hear your perspectives and any thoughts you have on that connection.
I'm so glad you asked. So, one of my favorite topics is stress management. And I have to say that I'm a little non traditional. I think a lot of folks, when they come into counseling and they say, I'm so stressed out, they think it's like a mental game. Like they think that they're trying to get their thoughts to be quiet. And they say things to themselves that are often not very nice, like, I just need to relax. I just need to be quiet. I just need to clear my mind. And that seems to be sort of the goal in stress management. And so I love that you're a heart company, and I love that there's a heart surgeon that is part of this podcast, because my idea of stress management is actually about the heart. And so if we have a few minutes, I would love to give a little like stress management 101 about hearts and stress.
Let's do it.
Okay, good. So our goal in stress management is not to get the brain to be quiet, because you will lose. Your brain is loud and it will keep getting louder, and it will keep telling you more and more about why you should be stressed out. And the reason why is because the brain is taking its messages from the heart. So in the system of us, the heart is in charge. The heart is the biggest in charge part of stress management. And what's happening is your heart is beating fast. And when your heart starts beating fast, your brain gets a signal that says, uh-oh, there's a problem. And then the storyteller begins. So then we start listing all of the reasons why we are extremely stressed out. And we start, thinking about all the terrible things that could possibly happen. So if we address the root, which is, oh, my heart is beating fast, and I think about stress management, not from the head, but from the heart, I can stop it right away. And so one of the pieces that I've been teaching for many, many years is this idea that we don't have to go to an ashram. We don't have to get a mantra. We don't have to do something special like a breathing exercise. But what we have to do is we have to get this heart to be still, because it's kind of in charge. And so when it's beating really fast, all my other systems are on high alert, like the nervous system, everything gets alerted, like, oh, there's a problem. And so instead of arguing with the brain, let's focus on how we slow that heart rate down. So the quickest way that we can slow a heart rate down is that we can close down like sort of the sensory overload. So our eyes, our ears, whatever we're kind of feeding it, social media, all the things. And so the goal is we want our heart to be as slow as when we're sleeping. We want our heart to be as slow as if you're floating in a pool. And so the research really shows that if I can take 3-minute breaks in my day and slow my heart rate down, I can reduce my stress. And the reason why is because stress builds on itself. So when I start out having a bad day and I hit traffic and then the kids and then I get a phone call and then something breaks in the office and I am now at the top of a stress mountain and I'm ready to lose my biscuits. And then by the end of the night, I'm drinking wine or eating a cheeseburger and knocking myself out. And this cycle happens every day. Just the stress builds. I knock myself out. Builds. And what we really want is we want a little bit of stress, and then we drop for 3 minutes into a relaxed state where our heart rate is slow. Then stress builds, we then drop. Stress builds, we drop. And what happens there is that I'm in a more level place. I'm not like, I have no managing skills and life is out of control. We really want these little baby spikes of stress, and then we drop. So the goal is to take 3-minute breaks 3 times a day. And our only goal is to slow our heart rate down. So lots of people tell me I exercise for my stress management. And I say, I love that you exercise. That's brilliant and beautiful for your body. But that's not stress management, because when you're exercising, your heart is increasing its speed. So you're actually going faster. So exercise is a great way to kind of get off your energy and move your body. So we don't want to say that that exercise is not good, but it's not a stress management tool. So when you think about slowing your heart rate down, what do you think about? You think about taking a nap, reading a book. The blue light from social media will excite you. It's a non-natural light that you're taking into your body. So that is not a way to calm down. Even though we think doom scrolling calms us down, it's not a way to calm down. Also, we have the extra added benefit of like comparison and adding ourselves into the story of social media. But like a book is usually like, if it's just a regular old paper book, that's a nice way to kind of slow our heart rate down. Another way to slow our heart rate down would be to listen to some nice slow music, not drums, not like beat, like we're in a gym working out, but like slow, soft waves, dolphins, birds, something that's slow and soft for 3 minutes. A song is usually about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So if I put my headphones on, if I lay back, if I close my eyes for 2 minutes, slow that heart rate down. And another way that we could do calmness is we could float in a pool. People really, during COVID, they always told me, I jumped in the pool and I felt so much better. I just floated in the pool. And there is something about floating that really slows us down and kind of gives us perspective. Let's say we don't have time to jump in a pool. I work with lots of doctors and people who are very busy, and they say, Jenny, I don't even have 10 seconds. And I say, well, you have a bathroom break. So you go into the bathroom, everybody will wait for you for 3 minutes. You close the door in the stall, and you don't have to go to the bathroom. You're just sitting in there, and you can either put on headphones and listen to your song that you already have queued on your phone. That's lovely and soft, like nice, lovely wave music, dolphins. Or the other tool, and this is my favorite tool, and this is what I use, is that I count my breaths. And the reason why I count is because my brain is very busy and it will ride over any song that I put on. So they call that monkey mind. But the idea is that a song, my brain will just talk right over it. So what I do is I count. I give my brain a job to do. Your job is to count. And I actually count with my fingers. And so what I do is I do a 4-4-4 breath, because even though the experts talk about a 6-7-8 breath, I'm fast. Like you can tell my energy is fast, and I can't do 6-7-8. It's too long. So I like 4-4-4. And what's interesting about 4-4-4 is you may start out really fast. Like you may go and take your bathroom break, shut the door, and you may be like, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. And you may be fast, but after 3 or 4 or 5 of those, you're going to slow down. So that's my favorite breath. It is the Navy SEAL breathing way. It's 4-4-4, which I love. So I just go into the bathroom, I shut the door, and I do 4 in, 4 hold, and 4 out. And I do that for 3 minutes.
I just did it with you and it felt great.
I am always in altered state after that. So if you have a meditation practice, awesome. Use that for 3 minutes. If you have a prayer practice, beautiful. Prayer is one of the only type of words that we can say that doesn't ignite the heart. I used to have a biofeedback lab, and I would say to folks, hey, describe your bathroom for me, and their heart rate would go up. So the act of thinking creates an increase in our heart rate. So we really want to get out of the thinking, and we want to do something that engages our brain that doesn't involve thinking. But prayer is one of those good ways. Gratitude, something that's easy to read, that's maybe not horror movie, slow, soft music, counting. All of these things are about 3 minutes. Our kids will do them with us. So if the house feels really wild when you get home from work, and you notice your heart rate is beating really fast and you're moving very fast, you pause and you're like, okay, let's take a 3-minute break. If you play the same song every time, your nervous system will be like, okay, I know what time it is, and it will start relaxing. So that is my take on stress management. I know that's really different, but I don't try to out-talk the brain. I don't try to get it to be quiet, because I'm playing against my physiology. Like, I'm arguing with my nervous system, which is not good. So what I want to do is just calm my nervous system. And then guess what? My thoughts will be much quieter. And if I have something stressful, I might do that for 3 minutes before the event, and then I do the event, and then I may do that for 3 minutes after. Or maybe it's in traffic when I get to the office. I'm so stressed out because of traffic, I might do that for 3 minutes in my car before I go to work. So that's
that's Jenny Summers 101, in putting the heart in place instead of the brain. I just love it. So if you're just joining us, that was Jenny Summers' fantastic, Stress Management 101. There were so many great tips in there. First of all, let's back it up. 3 times 3, right? And again, this is like a muscle you need to practice. And correct me if I'm wrong. You need to practice the muscle of listening to your heartbeat, right? You can find these different ways, whether it's the breath one, counting, listening to music, prayer, meditation. Did I miss one of those?
Floating in a pool.
Okay, if you have that available to you. But I see we have Ashley Randall. Dr. Simon, your sunshine is as bright as ever. And congratulations on your multiple accomplishments. Let's love it. Is there a question? What changes have you observed in how people relate to one another, and how the lack of interaction may relate to our internal stressors and feelings of loneliness?
Yeah, I mean, we are creatures that link up. We sync. Our nervous systems are in alignment like Legos. So there is a concept called mirror neurons, where we align with each other. And there's great research out there, Dr. Randall, about in a movie theater, like our heart rates beat at the same pace. In a movie theater, we're all beating at the same time. In a restaurant, we end up all chewing at the same speed. Women's menstrual cycles sync up. So we are basically, communal creatures, and we do sync up. And that is why right now it feels a little stressful, because we are in the water of everybody kind of being fear-based. But when we don't have, good, when we're encountering nervous systems that are very stressed out and in high levels of stress, we are linking up with that as well. So I always used to tell my clients before COVID, if you live with somebody who's an alcoholic, you're going to feel depressed because their nervous system is depressed. And because of mirror neurons, we're going to connect. Same thing with, like, if you live with a person who's anxious, you're going to feel really wound up and anxious all the time. And so I think that's a great question. How are we interacting with each other right now? I don't know. We're acting like bonkers. So, I mean, we are connected at a way deeper level than we know. Our nervous systems are absolutely linked.
And all these practices that you just gave us some insider tips on are ways to deal with that. Obviously, we know, that we might need to be taking breaks from social media and from some of the, let's say, the outside stressors. But back to the stress, obviously, again, we're a heart health company. What might be some, and one of the reasons I wanted to have Jenny, and she's always chock full of practical tools. I think something you told me before we started the live stream today, we want to talk tool-based, not theory-based. And I love that. What might be some, we offer employee wellness programs. And as a side note, if anyone wants to reach out to us about our company employer wellness programs, please do that at Ovadia Heart Health /wellness to find out about that. But are there some low hanging fruits that either companies could be paying attention to, maybe they're not, or, often when we go to companies, we'll see things, there'll be the EPA sign in the bathroom, but what might be some tools actually that employers could do to maybe better stress management or anything mental health orientated?
Yeah, I love this question. So I think a lot of companies are talking mental health, and they're saying the words, but I don't know that translates into the day to day. And so I guess what I would say is I have a lot of ideas for low hanging fruit, but keep in mind, this is not comprehensive change. These are just little tweaks that we can use to kind of quickly sort of alter the culture a bit. So again, this is low hanging fruit, not an in-depth, like, how do I change my culture? So, so basically what I would say is I've got about, I don't know, maybe 10. So
all right,
we'll go through them fast. Okay. So first of all, we have to model healthy behavior. So if I'm a boss and I am working 12-hour days and I get there at 6:30 in the morning and I don't leave until 7 o'clock at night, I'm modeling that. Like if I have sad desk lunch, that's what I call it, sad desk lunch, where you are working and eating while you are working and eating, you're modeling that. So again, keep in mind, leadership, what does your mental health look like? Like, are you burning the midnight oil and working 8 million hours and totally stressed out? Because if you are, that's like the quickest low hanging fruit that we can alter is our own self. Like, take a break, take stress breaks, take lunch breaks, leave, walk around, go see nature. Next one is that when we open a meeting, and how many meetings do we have in a day? 1 million.
Probably too many.
I know. So when we have meetings, we need to open with connection. Like, we don't open meetings with connection. We often open meetings with HR speak. Like, in one day, I can hear the word pivot, be nimble, shift. And I'm like, what language what alien world are we in? So we can take 1 minute at the beginning of each meeting and just start with connection. Like, we don't even have to go around the room and have everybody share. That feels maybe too insulting. But maybe in the chat, we have people at the beginning of each meeting just type in their favorite movie. I mean, that's it. Like, just something that is real. Like, I'm a person and I'm connecting with you as a person. That already lowers down the levels of kind of that anxiety. So we start every meeting with connection in the easiest way possible. Like, don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be like a trust fall. Remember those from?
Oh yes, the 70s or 80s. I can't remember.
Yeah, we don't have to do that. But like a connection, something that makes us human, that we see each other. Like, how did your kid's bar mitzvah go? Like, with something, anything, right? Just connect. So, and then we need to close meetings with something of calm. Like, we need to calm something. Like, most meetings end with like a 5-alarm fire. I have 27,000 things on my to-do list and I run out of the meeting to go do all the things. So maybe we need 1 minute. I mean, YouTube is great for this. There's so many like 1 minute of watching a waterfall, 1 minute of like a dog walking in a sweater and he's cute. I mean, whatever. I don't care. It's 1 minute. So that seems to me like very small tweaks. We start each meeting with connection and we end with a moment of calm. Like, okay, let's come back into the body. We said a lot of hard things today. Maybe you were given a lot of tasks in this meeting. Maybe we expressed some hard issues, like we might be doing layoffs or there's some, reorganizing or something, so let's calm, again, so let's not send everybody out of the meeting just all rattled. So those are 3 very easy, really quick things that we can do immediately. We can take our own breaks and lunches. We don't have to become workaholics. We can start with connection and end with calm. The next piece. Oh, sorry.
I got one thing. I just have to on the connection piece. Very funny. So you'll appreciate this. When I moved from New York City as a professional dancer, I moved to the Netherlands. When I went to my first rehearsal in the Netherlands, I saw everyone sitting there drinking a cup of coffee. So the ritual there is have a cup of coffee before you start a rehearsal. And I was on my New York brain, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be, And then, of course, didn't take me long to find that was just the most lovely thing to do. So I just had to share that little bit. I love this list.
I love that because you and I, we did that at Canyon Ranch. We connected over coffee, and that was my favorite part of the day. So just a human way, right? Just to connect and say, I see you. It doesn't have to be a hard trust fall game. It just easy, just easy.
Right.
And then the next piece is that I think if we're thinking about how do I take a 3-minute break, if I work in cubicle land and all around me are cubicles, I can't sit there and do a 3-minute count to 4. Everybody is looking at me. So maybe employers can think about creating a space in the office that is like a little dark, calm room, like a calm place, that they can listen to music, that they can count, that they can kind of, rest for just a few minutes, and it's quiet and dark and calm. And so even if it's like a little closet or like a little, I know space is a premium for some people, but, creating a little calm room isn't a bad idea. I think that feels really good to kind of say, we're creating this environment for you. Remember, like when we used to have breastfeeding rooms in offices, it was like, I see you, mommy, and I want you to work here, and I'm going to create a space for you. And that feels very loving. Well, it's the same thing for mental health. Let's make room that people can take a time out, take a 3-minute break, and get quiet and not be in the middle of cubicle land where everybody's shouting and asking questions over their heads, and we can take a time out. At Canyon Ranch, one of the things that I did there to improve morale one year was that we did lunch and learns for all the staff, but the lunch and learns did not have anything to do with their jobs. So it wasn't like a lunch and learn, like, let's learn about your job. It was like lunch and learns that were completely not anything to do with their jobs. So it was like a half hour of employees gathering with their lunch, and they ask for all sorts of things, like, help me talk to my teenager, like, give me 7 marriage tips. Let's talk about climate. I don't know. And it was just like whatever they wanted. And like, we had this incredible bonded group by the end of the year that we did these lunch and learns that came every single Thursday for 30 minutes. It was very easy, but it was like a way to eat lunch, learn something new. It was some weird, fun topic. And, it was very low key, but very bondy. So again, that idea that we're people and we need to connect as people. And so that's just a really easy way.
Do people things, right? To not do only the work things. This is really important. I know my husband and I worked for over a decade at Pixar Animation Studios, and they have something called Pixar University, where they encourage their employees to teach things like they had taught ukulele, but all kinds of things. Obviously, they're a creative company. They're making creative movies. But the idea was to get stimulated by what you're talking about, creativity in something that you're not doing as your work.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. We all can get real busy with the actual tasks that we have to do, but maybe we can be stimulated through something that is not precisely what our job is.
And also it was so great because like the painter got together with like the lunch person, which got together with the nutritionist, so like all the different teams, right, who normally don't even encounter each other, were coming together for 30 minutes to do a little baby lunch and learn. And I just think it really bonded everybody. Everybody got excited to see each other on Thursday, and it created a nice, friendly, helpful, it was a really good idea. And I think that's a very easy thing to put into your culture. That doesn't take away or cost money.
Right.
And then the last piece that I'm going to add into this list is that we need to be able to take feedback. And so I work for a company right now that does self-awareness evaluations every single month. And it is so it is so not penalized, right? So whatever it is that you say in your evaluation, you don't get penalized for it. Like your boss doesn't come to you and be like, hey, Jenny, let's talk about this evaluation. But it is a way for leadership to see the culture, like see what's going on. Like, are people disgruntled? Why are they disgruntled? What would make things better? It is an open dialogue, constant open dialogue every month. And it's not for, nobody gets in trouble. It's literally like, help me hear about what the culture is. To me, that is a mental health piece because, we spend how many hours a week at work? I mean, we spend 45, 50, 60 hours a week at work. This place needs to be non-toxic. So if people are grumbling and, grumpy, like let's figure that out. So I think that like constantly sort of polling in a non-punitive way that says, let's do a self-awareness check. How are we doing? Is everybody, are we okay? And how's everybody feeling? I think that's really important.
Oh, 100%. And this is such a key thing because, you talked about, the heart rate, sort of escalating as you can go along in the day. But also, let's say if disgruntledness starts to pile on and it never really gets addressed, then maybe that thing that really wasn't anything, but somehow became, kind of a monster in that way. And if you can address that, then you're actually, able to work through it.
Yeah, no punishment, just like, hey, we really actually want to hear what is going on for you all. And that feels really good, that you're just getting pulled every month. It's not hard. It's maybe a 10 question, 5, 7 questions, but it's like literally a self-awareness check. Like, how are we doing? I mean, we do this in relationships, right? When we're with friends or our partners, we ask, right? We say like, how are we doing? Are we okay? Like, what do we need to repair? How can we come back together? So why don't we do this at work? Like it's weird. Yeah. So I think it's very important that we kind of do a self-awareness check. And again, do you see that I kind of left out all that corporate speak? We've really gone off the deep end in terms of like the wording that we use, this is a quality control measure or what, I don't even know. We've kind of lost the humanness of who we are.
Yeah. And, if you think about, we're talking here about things that companies can do to improve the mental health of their employees. Ideally, we're also talking about just their overall health and well-being. And it started very much on this wellness journey way back when, and then kind of became more and more corporate. It was about, you need to take the weight loss program or you need to do something, that it became less about the human and more about a number to achieve.
Yeah. And the numbers get in the way because then I don't feel like a human. Like I think that's why just taking 1 minute at the beginning of each meeting and saying, let's connect. Let's connect. Let me see you. I think that's so important.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm telling you, if you're listening today, you've got a whole host of tools from Dr. Jenny Simon. If you want to know more about her work, you can go to her website, which is rethinkingtherapy.com, and see all the great things that Jenny's been doing and is working on. I want to touch a little bit because we've had many of our patients, clients, inquire about what is EMDR. And I know you're a specialist in this. It's a specific kind of therapy, but we get lots of questions. Can you help sort of break the mystery about what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. And also just, because you have my website up there, there is a whole page called trauma. So please, and I even summarized it at the top. Like, if you don't want to read this page here, just read this paragraph. So just so there is a whole page on it. But basically EMDR it stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And it's a very fancy name. And it just means that we're doing bilateral eye movement. And there are different ways that therapists do this bilateral eye movement. Some therapists use headphones and the sound goes beep, 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 and your eyes follow the sound. Some therapists use paddles. They're like little buzzy paddles, and you hold them in your hand and they go buzz, 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 buzz. Again, you're bilaterally kind of stimulating the system. So, and your eyes do actually move with the sound, even though that's kind of weird. And then some people use a light bar where it's like a skinny bar, and they say to follow the light, and the light kind of moves across the screen. Some people use their fingers. They put like a ball on the end of a pen and they say follow. So EMDR can be lots of different ways, but basically what you're doing is you're basically stimulating the bilateral parts of the brain, both parts of your brain. And the reason why you're doing this is because when we think about a trauma or an event that happened that caused us great distress, we go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are our little defense mechanisms. And when we go into those states, we're not here. We're not present. This frontal lobe goes offline. Boop. We're not thinking anymore. The executive team has gone offline. Boop. And our instinct reptile brain has kicked in. And so if I'm a therapist and I'm engaging in talk therapy with you and I ask you about your trauma, you all of a sudden are not present. You've actually gone back into reptile brain, age 8, 10, 12. You're not here anymore. So then I don't have access to that. And it's usually not very useful. So EMDR is very interesting because when I'm using this bilateral stim, whether you're using your eyes on a bar, whether your eyes are closed and you have your headphones on, what's happening is as I'm talking about your trauma in a very specific, organized way, EMDR is an 8-step protocol, and it should be the same from New Jersey to Hawaii. It doesn't matter where you do it. It should be the standard 8 steps. But what happens is when we're talking about your trauma in a very structured, organized way, your brain does not do fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It can see it. It can see your event a little bit bigger. What happens when we store a trauma is it becomes kind of like an ice chunk, and we don't have access to it often. And so when I'm doing EMDR with somebody, your brain doesn't know what to do with this bilateral, and it allows me to see more of the image. So even today, I was working with somebody and they did not see the full picture of their trauma. So they had kind of stored it in one way. Their belief system about themselves was, I'm weak and I made bad choices. And as we saw more of the image, they realized I wasn't weak. I was actually smart. And the decisions that I made actually protected me. And so I think EMDR helps to reprocess, which is another part of EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It helps that little memory go back on the shelf where it needs to go, not here, front and center, guiding the ship. So I love EMDR. I've been doing it longer than I had a license, and I adore it. I think it's a really great way if I don't want to talk about my stuff, if I just know there were some weird things that happened in my childhood and I want to work through it. I think EMDR is a really beautiful way. It's also pretty short term, 4 to 7 sessions. It's a pretty fast therapy. I like it for men because you don't have to talk. I do it a lot with military folks who do not like living in the world of feelings. And it doesn't feel touchy-feely to them. So that feels really good and solid. And I like it for teenagers because you don't even have to tell me what you're seeing. If you don't even want to tell me what happened, you don't have to. I can work with that without knowing the image that you're looking at. So there's like EMDR is really great. Also, I want to say for the record, trauma does not mean like war trauma. Like trauma can be a fire. Trauma can be domestic violence that we witness from our parents. Trauma can be neglect. So trauma is kind of something that happened to us that didn't get stored properly. And so it's stored in a primitive part of us instead of right here, frontal lobe.
Wow. Very intriguing. And, this is the unique thing about your work. You have various tools. Obviously, no one patient is alike, right? To be able to have that kind of toolbox, and EMDR just might be fantastic for someone, as well as other forms of therapy. And one thing I just want to briefly touch on here is, you mentioned a lot of companies talk about wanting to take care of the mental health of their employees, but their actions may not speaking much. A little bit along that lines, I don't watch mainstream news, but let's just say we've got lots of news coming at us all day long, social media, various forces. There's constantly talk about how poorly we're doing in dealing mentally, whether it's statistics. We also hear this in terms of our health. We're a heart health company. Heart attacks are still number one. We're leading the globe in obesity. Are there any strategies or things you help people to kind of calm them down from that overload of, well, we're just all sick and mentally ill?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is I've noticed a trend in some of my kids that I work with, that doctors are putting them on social media fasts. And some of my teenagers are not allowed to be on screens for 2 weeks. And that there's some research to indicate that your nervous system gets reset after a 2-week fast. And I know probably people are listening right now freaking out at just me saying that, but there is something about being social media does something to our brains that mimic ADHD behaviors. We've seen an increase across the board of ADHD-like behaviors. Our attention span, we know this is true. We don't even need research. Our attention span has changed to like 0. And that is 100% due to TikTok, quick videos, fast doom scrolling, all of that. Like, we know, we feel kind of kooky after we've been on our phone all day just doom scrolling. We don't feel good. So I do think we need to curb the overindulgence on social media. I think it's a comparison machine and it makes us feel really bad. And I think social media is not bad. I love social media and I love AI. I love all the things that people have decided are bad. But I think all of it needs to happen in moderation. We need a huge amount of self-awareness. Like, if the average kid spends 8 hours and 34 minutes on social media a day.
Oh, can you say that again? 8 hours and 34 minutes? Is that right?
Yeah, this was a recent study, and basically kids spend 8 hours and 34 minutes on social media every day.
Oh my goodness. That is not good for us teenage brain, but it's also not good for my brain too. I just got a headache thinking about that.
Yeah, and I mean, most parents, when they say, "Oh, my kid is on a screen fast," that means they also have to be on a screen fast. And sometimes the parents struggle more than the kids. So I mean, we all have to kind of have a look in the mirror and be like, is this creating health, or am I losing my biscuits? So, I mean, that's our first thing, right? Like, let's dial that back. We don't have to cut it all the way out, but maybe we set a timer, or, maybe we do 1 hour and a specific time, but it's probably right before bed isn't our best goal. Maybe right when we wake up, that might not be our best time. So it's just be aware of how you feel. The other thing that I would add to this is that the brain is essentially a predicting machine. Its job, this is its little frontal lobe, little executive part. Its job is to figure out what it's going to see before it sees it, right? So my brain's job is to predict what is going to happen before it happens. My brain predicts. This is all of us. This isn't just Jenny brain. This is everybody's brain. My brain goes out into the world, predicts what it's going to see, and then sets an expectation. I expect that, somebody's going to walk out of my kitchen carrying a sandwich. That's what I expect, because it's a kitchen, and I expect they're going to carry a sandwich. Now, if somebody comes out of my kitchen carrying a power tool, that is going to be an error in my brain. That's going to register as an error, because I predicted that if somebody comes out of my kitchen, they're coming out with food. If somebody comes out with a power tool, that's going to be weird for my brain. I'm going to get a prediction error. If I have so many of these prediction errors, the problem is my brain takes this very seriously, and eventually my brain shuts down. This is absolutely happening. We are down regulating. And this is a term that was coined by Mike Miller out of the University of Sussex. And basically he says, if we have too many errors, our brain down regulates. So what does that mean? That means I'm not at the top of my game. That means I have foggy head. That means I can't even function as I'm walking through my day. So if I go out in the world and I'm supposed to predict what's going to happen, and then I'm going to set expectations based on that prediction, if we are feeding our brain news and social media, I cannot possibly predict. I cannot possibly predict the news cycle right now. I cannot possibly predict what is about ready to happen on the world stage. So look at how cuckoo we've become. So we've got to shut that down. We've got to shut down the constant feed of whether that be news or social media or the noise, because my brain is going to downregulate without my permission. And I'm going to feel foggy and sluggish and apathetic and numb. And everybody's like, I don't know, I guess I'm depressed. Like, I hear that every day. I'm like, I don't know that you're depressed. Maybe your brain is downregulating. So I think it's like overload, like we're maxed out. And I love that Mark Miller's doing this research about the concept of downregulation, because I think it's so germane to what we're experiencing right now. I don't think we all have ADHD. I don't think we all have depression, but we all feel a little bit like it, right? Our attention span is 2 seconds long and we feel kind of like bleh. And I think it's just too much data and our brain cannot predict. Right now, we cannot predict what's happening.
Oh, this is such fabulous information. And Maureen, who's listening in, thank you, Jenny. I learned quite a bit today. Good to see you again, too. Fantastic. I've learned a ton. We've had, oh my goodness, so many tools here for employers, for individuals. Thank you, Maureen. I wholeheartedly agree with you. We covered so much, but also, Jenny, were there any little things or, as we think about closing up here too, that we didn't touch on that you were hoping to share with our listeners? And oh my gosh, we got to get you back on here because there's so much more to talk about. Any last sort of closing thoughts or things we missed here today?
Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me on this live stream. And thank you for everybody showing up. Time is so precious, and to take an hour out of your day to come, I just say thank you that you came. And I guess what I would say is I really, I hate the word compassion because I think it's overused and I don't think people really know what to do with that term. So I would like for us to kind of develop sort of a softness or a kindness about ourselves walking through the landscape right now. In today's worldscape, it is an unpredictable world. Like we are in a world where they are calling this time. I'm a philosopher by trade. I have a PhD in philosophy, and they're calling this moment the post-truth society. And it's because we don't know what's true. So if I'm walking in a worldscape where it's post-truth, I don't know, I have no control. I also am having prediction errors because I'm trying to predict what's about ready to happen and I can't possibly guess. So my brain is giving me error. I mean, we have to be kind. Like this is just an unreal time that we just have never been in. And so I guess my last thought would just be, we need to be kind to ourselves because this is really weird. So let's lean on each other and be superhuman and not use words like pivot and be nimble. Let's get out of that HR speak and get back into human beings and just, seeing each other. I was at the grocery store the other day and I saw this lady. She was just sitting there on the outside of the grocery store and she looked like she was in great distress. And I just said to her, are you okay? Like, I didn't know her. I had no idea who she was, but she just looked like she was in a lot of pain. And she started crying and she's like, you're the first person that said a thing to me all day. So I think we have to kind of get out of our heads and be in a very real, compassionate place for ourselves, for for others. Like, this is hard. This is a hard, weird world that we're living in right now. So any way that we can add extra love and, extra kind of stress management into our world, like, the better. That's what I would say.
And that's a fabulous way to end. I've had the delight to spend this last hour with Dr. Jenny Simon. If you want to know more about our Ovadia Heart Health employee wellness programs, we're across the country from Oregon to Pennsylvania. It's ovadiahearthealth.com/wellness. And we will most definitely get Jenny back online here, because a wealth of practical tools. Please share this with your employer or anyone you know who is looking to up their game when it comes to mental health. Not just talk about it, but actually maybe do something about it. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing your insight, your energy, and just your passion for life in general.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.